Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, from the Spiritual Awareness Center in Fresno, California. Like everyone else, we are sheltering in place, but taking our consciousness to the world, as I hope you are. So going back, chapter 1, the thing itself. Before I go on, when I first came to this concept, and I picked up my first copy of the textbook, and I've had many, but that first copy, and I read the first introductory chapter titled The Thing Itself, and realized that what Dr. Holmes was talking about was the divine principle, was God, was spirit. And the idea that he referred to it as the thing itself, and the power that concept had at the time. Remember, this was written in 1930, well, it was published in 1938. That was a radical idea at the time. Anyway, that aside, moving on. There's nothing supernatural about the study of life, he says. Let us then approach the science of mind, the science of spiritual psychology, with awe, but not with fear, with truly a humble thought, but not with a sense that we are unworthy. The incredible idea that we are not unworthy. There are not victims. And I'll clarify that by saying, yes, in certain situations, people are victimized, okay? And we all have our story, and we can become victims of our story for sure. But if you can reframe your consciousness with an approach that no matter what life brings at us, we have a bigger God. There may be lessons to learn. There may be incredible issues that we need to overcome. But once we overcome them, once we get to the other side, we are a stronger, more vitalized living beingness than we were going in. And we always have the choice to let our story own us or to recognize that it's just our story. So there's nothing supernatural about the study of life, but the study of life, the study of spirit, the study of truth, is truly the study of the power that we have available to us. And if we have that power, regardless of what happens in the moment, we have a bigger God. We grow our faith. Faith is a powerful tool. I want to move on here because I'm going to cover a couple of things. He says, let us approach it normally, happily, willing to accept, glad to experiment, hoping and believing that as the result of our efforts, we shall each derive a great good, a sound understanding of the natural laws of life as they apply to the individual and to his or her relationship to the whole universal scheme of things. That's our foundation, if we choose to claim it, just like claiming the good each day. Powerful, awesome. Now, I'm going to go to page 150, I think it's 155, which is where the chapter of faith starts. There are some people that they read this book, they go back as they're taking classes, goes on the bookshelf, once in a while they pull it down. I highly recommend every day reading a little bit. You can do it in your own way. There's reading it through the year, which in the older editions it used to be in the front. I believe in the newer editions it's found in the back of the book, but it will take you there. Day by day, there's a reading. It'll take you through basically the entire book through the year. Keep your nose in the book. The mind is a powerful thing. Memory is a great thing. But life brings a lot of chaos. We get caught up and sometimes we forget the details of the things we learn. Details are important, particularly when we're seeking to create this incredible life experience at a higher and greater degree of livingness. I say that to say there are many different parts of the book that I highly recommend, but you know, sometimes, particularly when you've had one of those, events, maybe it's shaken you a little bit. There's a lot of good places to go in the book to read, but if you start at page 155 and read through the chapter of faith, it's powerfully reaffirming, reminds me and it reminds us of our role and what in that role life provides for us, if you will. He says the universe is a spiritual system. Its laws are those of intelligence. He says we approach it through the mind, which enables us to know, will, and act. Prayer, faith, and belief are closely related mental attitudes. They are prayer, faith, and belief, but they're not the same. But they each are a part of a very powerful foundational support as we go through our day. He says prayer is a mental approach to reality. It is not the symbol, but the symbolized that makes the prayer effective. Some prayers are more effective than others. Some only help us to endure, while others transcend conditions and demonstrate an invisible law which has power over the visible. Excuse me, I'm having trouble reading in the lights. Insofar as our prayer is affirmative, it is creative of the desired results, and in that affirmativeness comes belief and faith. And so in this chapter, as Holmes goes through this, he says always a power. Faith has been recognized as a power throughout the ages, whether it be faith in God, faith in one's fellow man, faith in oneself, or in what one is doing. The idea that faith has only to do with our religious experience is a mistake. Faith is a faculty of the mind that finds its highest expression in the religious attitude, but always the man who has faith in his own ability accomplishes far more than the one who has no confidence in himself or herself. There's a great study that was done. In the next segment, I'll pull it out and just give you the location. You can look it up for yourself. But very simply, in a recent scientific study, it has been found that for someone that is doing something, a competitive athlete or runner or whatever, or even if it's in study or whatever it is, that when you seek to encourage yourself, we often think I can do it, I think I can, I know I can. Those types of affirmations, they're good, but what science has found is when we become our own cheerleader in the third person, you can do this. You can achieve. You can stretch a little more. You can. The response is an increase in achieving whatever it is that we seek to do. Let's think about this for a second. Telling ourselves in the third person, you can. Then we have to become the listener to that affirmation, don't we? You can do this. You can achieve this. You can be this. You are this, you have this. There's something receptive in the mind that accepts that type of affirmation with a greater degree of acceptance, if you will, than just the simple I can, I have, even I am. You are. I don't know why, but that's what the research says. So go figure. File that away. Faith. Maybe because sometimes we struggle with faith in ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. We didn't come full fleshed out with all the tools that we need. We're here to learn the tools. We're here to take the tools that we learn and put them into practice. But as we do so, we have a tool cabinet, if you will. And a tool cabinet's a very interesting thing. If you've ever worked for a large organization that has a lot of mechanical stuff, they'll have a tool cabinet. And when you're working on something and you don't have the right tool, you go back to the tool cabinet, you tell the person there that you need a tool for this, that, or the other. They go back into the back, they pull out the tool, they bring it to you, and they give it to you, and you go back and you do whatever it is that you need to do. We all have that tool cabinet within ourselves. It's a spiritual tool cabinet. But we can go to that tool cabinet anytime, any place, and we can lay it out. This is where I seek to achieve. This is where, I have to overcome. This is where the obstacle is to be found. And that which exists within that tool cabinet will provide for us if we first believe it will provide for us. And we take it back. And part of that tool is understanding that there's something that says you can. I am, you can, you are. And you can own it. That's why, whether you watch these videos or other Science of Mind, New Thought videos, along with daily reading, daily meditation, daily prayer work, all of that builds that tool cabinet, affirms that tool cabinet, pulls the tools out of that tool cabinet, and puts them in your hands, your possession, that you can go forward. Because you are here as an individualized expression of the divine, wanting to achieve as you, through you, wanting to succeed, wanting to overcome, wanting to grow on all levels, and wanting each and every individual to align itself in greater degrees, higher degrees, with the divine principles itself. The story in the Old Testament, where it's in Genesis chapter 2, where there is that tree in the garden, and it's the tree of the knowledge of supposedly good and evil. Evil is an experience that the whole universality of humankind is subject to, no doubt. But it's an artificial experience. It's created out of ignorance, not created out of entity. As we keep ourselves separated from our truth, from our spiritual foundation, when we begin to believe that we have to do it on our own, we look at our toolbox, and instead of seeing the abundance there, we see nothing but emptiness. And out of fear and greed and things that take us out of alignment with principle, we begin doing things to other individuals. And there's where the life of evil begins, if you will. But as we begin to learn the truth of who we are, that God is infinite, God's good is infinite, God's abundance is infinite, that we have this power available. It's not just about overcoming and achieving. It's about the adventure of it. Becoming a have instead of a have-not. But it starts in mind. That's one of the great things about this book and about this philosophy, is it refocuses our mind back to, and it's available to each and every one of us. So Holmes goes on to say, history has recorded many instances of healing through faith. When we talk about healing, it's not just healing in health, it's healing in life. He says, this is an undisputed fact, yet we cannot believe in a divine power that responds more quickly to one than to another. We are compelled to see that prayer is not an end of itself. It is a means to an end, like the practice of the science of mind. It is a way, like the practice of the science of mind. It is a practice. It's not an intellectual memory or knowledge base that we have. It is a practice. And practice must be practiced. That's part of our daily life responsibility, if you will. So we're going to take our next break, and I'll see you when we come back. We'll practice some more.
Weedman Lawn Care of Fresno, California is a locally owned and operated lawn care company providing environmentally responsible fertilization, weed control, and integrated pest management services. Call Weedman Fresno at 559-266-1624 or visit them at fresno.weedmanusa.com. If your home floods, who will you call? When your house springs a leak, it's time to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-213-9430. Clean Master will be there in 60 minutes to start fixing your home. And Clean Master bills your insurance directly, saving you the hassle because you've got enough to worry about. Clean Master also offers carpet and upholstery cleaning, carpet repair, pet odor removal, and more. Remember, Clean Master Emergency Flood Service. 559-213-9430 and visit cleanmasterflood.com.
Pour yourself a glass of Crybaby wine available at the market and Sam's Italian Deli. And remember to ask for Crybaby wine at your favorite restaurant.
Forget about the higher good of food, right? You're growing a product that people enjoy really all over the world. I mean, how does that make you feel?
I think about that all the time. I think about the families sitting around a table, enjoying a meal. I just see that what we do brings families together.
I mean, we're blessed. We're in paradise for food.
The Kern family of the Kern Family Farm invites you to eat delicious, nutritious, organic produce available at the Gnarly Carrot, located at 32954 Road 222 in North Fork, California. The Gnarly Carrot is a local, natural, seasonally changing market offering a wide range of products from local Central Valley vendors. Get your caffeine fix, grab a smoothie, and support small businesses. Learn more at kernfamilyfarm.com and visit the Gnarly Carrot today. Dr. in Sukasa allows you to connect with your doctor when you need a quick treatment. Avoid a trip to a medical clinic or emergency room and connect by video with your doctor from your home, work, or anywhere. Just go to drinsukasa.com on your phone, tablet, or computer. Dr. in Sukasa provides quality care that is convenient, bilingual, and affordable, so you are never left without access to health care. Visit drinsukasa.com today. Carol Co., the Valley's leader for no-cost energy upgrades. Call Carol Co. at 559-396-3939 and visit carolco.net. Did you know most hair and beauty salons in the Central Valley are not disposing of their chemicals correctly? Partner with us today to become an eco-friendly salon. Visit us online at greenbeautywaste.com. Our phone number is 559-367-7206. And be sure to visit us on Instagram and Facebook at Green Beauty Waste. Call Valley Cryosport today to learn how you can decrease muscle soreness, speed up your body's recovery time, and improve your immune system. And Valley Cryoskin uses science that works with your body's natural systems, killing fat cells without damaging surrounding tissue, and increasing oxygen supply that aids in collagen production, resulting in slimmer, toned bodies, and the elimination of fine lines and wrinkles. Visit valleycryosport.com today, or call 559-500-3304.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling. On page 187, under the title, Never Limit Your View of Life, Ernest Holmes writes, he says, never limit your view of life by any past experience. And I'm going to read a little bit more, but I want to stop right there because we get caught up, wrapped up, and we self-define by our story. You know, our story is the slings and arrows of tough times that we've suffered, or how we've been shortchanged by life, and the or. And we have those stories. Hopefully, we reach a point to where we begin to have a greater understanding that all it is a story. You say, well, wait a second. I lived through that. It has affected me. You know, it has limited me in some way or another. Truth be told, you did live through it. But the truth is, it didn't limit you. Even if you suffered some kind of a physical limitation, I'll use that word objectively, as in the loss of a limb. You happen to be, you know, maybe you're a vet, maybe you were in an accident, maybe, you know, things happen. And you say, well, see, my life was limited because I lost this, that, or the other, or this was done to me, or I was born in these circumstances. Never limit your view of life. Doesn't say don't limit your history, your view of your history. Look at it and embrace it. That's what was. But that's not the what is. And that's a big leap in understanding for each and every one of us, that the what was is not the what is. Even if I'm in circumstances today as a result of the what was, I have a bigger God. And the minute I make that shift in understanding, I have a bigger God. I have a bigger God. And God is not limited. Divine principle is not limited. Spirit is not limited. However, whatever word you want to use, the thing itself is not limited. And if it's not limited, neither is your ability to move beyond from where you are right now. And it's important that we understand that. Holmes goes on to say, he says, the possibility of life is inherent within the capacity to imagine what life is, backed by the power to produce this imagery or divine imagination. I'll read this again, okay? The possibility of life is inherent within the capacity to imagine. Where does that take place? Is that capacity to imagine in somebody else's hands? Is that something that someone holds over you? Or does that take place within your own mind, in your own consciousness? Think about it. The possibility of life is inherent within the capacity to imagine. Okay? What life is. And if you say, well, life is, and you want to spew your story, that's what life was, but it's not what life is. Okay? If you can imagine something more, then, and you have that capacity. You see, that's part of the gift. Part of the gift that you were given at the inception of the who and what you are. Capacity to imagine what life is. Backed, and this is key, it's backed by the power to produce this imagery or divine imagination. The divine imagination exists, again, not outside of you. It's not something that somebody else does for you. It's not something that somebody can give to you. It lives within you. And the only limitation on that is the limitation that we bring, each and every one of us. Now, okay, I'm talking about our story. So, yeah, our story, if we want to use that to define who we are, is one of the major limiting factors. Most people want to kind of hang on to their story, if you will. I mean, imagine that thing. Imagine waking up in the morning and going, I'm not my story. I'm greater. I'm more powerful. I'm more adventurous. I'm more connected. I'm more accepting. I'm more open to a greater good today, this day, versus yesterday. And yesterday could have been a good day, but today's a better day on many different levels. And we can own that, okay? I'm not defined by the obstacles that life has dropped at my doorstep. I'm defined by my ability to know, connect, understand, embody the immense, infinite power of a bigger God as my provider, as my partner, as my guidance. Not as my guidance where I'm walking through the forest, if you will, in fear and doubt, but my guidance in that as I go through this, today I'm divinely guided, and I'm divinely guarded, and I'm divinely protected, and divinely enlightened, and I can embody this. And to the degree that I can, the greater the degree that I can embody this, the greater it responds through me, as me in this moment. I have a bigger God. I can overcome in any one way or another, and I am open and accepting to that. Okay? You know, the power in affirmative treatment is not in the verbiage that we speak. The power is in the imagery, the understanding, the imagination, the faith, belief, and acceptance. For some people, that may be arrived at through the spoken word. For some people, it's just the being there, okay? And the being there is available to us. But not everybody can do that where they're at right now. But we can tell our new story to ourselves. We take our old story, we put it on the shelf of our memories, and today we start our new story in this moment. When I say today, right here, right now, whatever happened up to this moment can be left behind. You say, well, you know, I can't be left behind because I'm dealing with all the whatever, okay? There are responsibilities. We may have to, you know, this law of cause and effect. We may have set certain causes in motion, and we may have to deal with certain effects as a result of that. It's called responsibility, but it's not called prison. Okay? We may, you know, although I bring the word prison into this conversation, that may be a part of it. But we don't have to be imprisoned in mind if the body is imprisoned by some unfortunate action that we've taken in the past. And we can grow out of it. And we all can. But we have to decide, we have to claim, you know, we have to get on board with this way of life, this way with faith. And faith is powerful, and it's available to each and every one of us. So we're told, never limit our view of life, no matter where we're at. And if you can't do a lot, no problem. Do a little bit. You can do a little bit. And each day as you practice, you can do a little bit more. We can do that, okay? He says, it is not a question of failing or succeeding. It is simply a question of sticking to an idea until it becomes a tangible reality. We can do that. It's part of the gift. The idea of God is an idea of deity that has evolved through the history of humankind. And most easily it is understandable and traceable in the Western Judeo-Christian philosophy. But for anybody that takes the time, it's there in all spiritual understandings. The idea of God has evolved. until we got to an idea, a point of recognizing that God's not a guy or a girl or a group. God is the ever-present here and now spiritual consciousness, beingness. And as the master teacher said, those that, God is spirit, those that worship God in spirit. Each and every one of us. Okay, got our breaks kind of disjointed today. We're going to take our last break, be back real quick, and we'll close off for the day. See you.
Highlights, balayage, color, extensions, cuts, pure Brazilian blowouts, treatments. Contact Jordan Myers at Hair by Jordan. Did you know most hair and beauty salons in the Central Valley are not disposing of their chemicals correctly? Partner with us today to become an eco-friendly salon. Visit us online at greenbeautywaste.com. Our phone number is 559-367-7206. And be sure to visit us on Instagram and Facebook at Green Beauty Waste.
Is everything in life draining you? Come to Stretch 360. Our professional staff can offer you many options for relaxation like deep tissue or hot stone massages, infrared medical grade sauna. Once you leave us, you'll look and feel like $1,000,000. Stretch 360. Relaxation is only a stretch away.
The Art of Becoming Who We Are in Christ by Jolene Kennedy is a book about the process of maturity as we find our true identity, since God's promises must be received, embraced, and activated within us. Get your copy today and check out JoleneKennedy.com.
Fleet Feet Fresno is more than just a running and sportswear store. Fleet Feet Sports' mission is to provide runners and other active Fresnans with gear that fits their individual needs, training that helps them reach their fitness goals, and races that satisfy their competitive spirit. Get to know Fleet Feet Fresno today.
Okay, so we've got a short segment. I'm going to touch on a couple things before we close out. If you want to flip back, if you got a copy of the textbook, to page 160, down the page, under the title, The Technique of Acquiring Faith. The technique of acquiring faith, okay? You can grow your faith. Now, I heard someone say years ago, and there, in a certain sense, is truth to this, that we have all the faith that we'll ever have. And that may be true. We just may need to redefine it. Faith in good versus faith in bad or evil. Faith in a divine power, God, source, spirit, that expresses through us as us, versus faith in, the guy that walked through the garden, or no God at all. People come to New Thought, religious science, science-minded spirit from many different backgrounds. Those that take the time to invest, to grow their knowledge, to practice their what it is that they have learned, and they will grow their faith. So Holmes says, technique in acquiring faith. Okay. There is no one who believes more in faith, more in prayer, or more in the necessity of the divine will being done than he or she who practices daily the science of mind. He has relieved his mind of the morbid sense of the will of God that can be the will of suffering. For if there were a suffering God, and if we were eternal beings, then we should suffer through all eternity. But we're not. We're not suffering. God is not a suffering God. I'll flip over to the bottom of page 162, and Holmes says down here, he says, if we are to have an active faith, a faith of God instead of merely a faith in God, our thought must be centered in the universal mind. We are convinced that under divine law, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. You can find that in your New Testament understanding. You can find it in the Old Testament. You can find it in many different spiritual understandings. With God, with Spirit, all things are possible. Infinite God, infinite power, infinite good. And we are an individualized expression of that. So as we go through our life, each and every day, we put these principles into practice, the things that we learn here. So finally we can get to a point, and I go back to this. I like going back to this a lot because it's a great tool. It's found on page 423. Final conclusion, Holmes writes, in conclusion, what the world needs is spiritual conviction followed by spiritual experience. I would rather see a student of this science prove its principle than to have him or her repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. It is far easier to teach the truth than it is to practice it. Each and every day, we have teachers that may be able to teach it. Are they putting it into practice? How much time are they spending? How much time are you spending? Because in truth, you are your own teacher. In truth, you are the one that has the power to make the choice to accept the good of the gift of this day. And I hope you did. And we'll see you next week. If you're still sheltering in place, make the best of it. If you have the capability of getting out and about, and make the incredible adventure even greater than incredible. And if you're one of those individuals that has been serving the community thanks you. And I know that it is the gift of God expressing through you to the community. So thanks. As you go through the week, know the light of God surrounds you. Love of God enfolds you. Power of God protects you. Presence of God watches over you wherever you are. God is there. All is well. Think about those words as you go through this week, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one.